despite what their moms told them. They just aren't talented enough for radio. Unfortunately, anyone can have a show these days. Sean.
Well, I'm pretty hard to figure out sometimes. In fact, I can't even figure myself out sometimes, so don't you try to.
Joe.
You're an idiot and really a disloyal person.
This is the Cuse Militia. Now, those two unapologetically biased orange-blooded homers, Sean and Joe.
It's the most bullshit thing I've seen in 30 years.
Welcome, orange men and ladies. Happy Tuesday. This is the Cuse Militia with Sean and Joe. For the Believe Entertainment Network at Cuse Militia on the socials. Go there, join the militia live on X Spaces for the final segment of every post-game show. Here to talk about the one, the only, Holy Cross this Saturday at noon. It's going to be a barn burner. We'll see. Anyways, if you thought pre-games were fun, just wait until we tell you about Holy Cross, because, oh Nelly, there's a ton. Oh boy. Anyway, what's up, Joe?
Their nicknames are the Crusaders.
The end.
No, what's up, man? I'm good. Just rushing home. Running around like a chicken with my head cut off all day. So
yeah, nothing breaking. So we only know what we know from the last game. And can Syracuse improve on what they did the last game? So you know, it's one of those games, I think, that number one, we're not going to take much away from it. Number two, I mean, other than being a confidence booster heading to UNLV, I don't know what it does. And what it comes down to is just winning this game. And like Joe always reiterates, is getting out of there healthy with a win. And basically, you know, I mean, that's it. That's it. It's an FCS school. I mean, it's not, it shouldn't be too difficult, you know. I said the same thing about Stanford. And we'll see what happens with Stanford. I still think that Syracuse just had a bad game for the most part. But we'll see what happens. I mean, Florida State won. We were talking about Cal last week, talking about how good they might be. So,
right.
I mean, it's
right.
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's kind of all over the place. Obviously, you have the situation where Clemson got beat by Georgia, but ever since then, Clemson's kind of been on top of their game. And obviously, there's Miami. So, I mean, I look at those two that have kind of been leading the conference so far. But as far as every other team, like, you just don't know. Don't know what you're going to get from week to week. So, as far as I'm concerned, you know, I mean, you got Louisville too. They're undefeated. But this is, as far as I'm concerned, we only play one of those teams, and this conference is still up in the air.
Yeah, what's that say about Georgia Tech? Mentioning Louisville, I know Louisville's ranked, but I mean, Georgia Tech was right there at one point before they came into the Dome and we beat them. So, you know, talking about NC State, we thought was strong. You mentioned Clemson putting an ass whooping on them. You got JMU just totally waxing the ass of the Tar Heels. With tar, by the way. They tarred the Tar Heels. You know,
pretty early too.
120 total scored points in that game. Like, unbelievable. James Madison had 53 at halftime.
That was something crazy.
53 to 21 at halftime. So, yeah, I mean, you know, we're going to be getting into all ACC play. It doesn't, you know, don't forget about, you know, Pittsburgh putting a strong 73 on Youngstown State.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever.
Hey, Boston College beat Michigan State. Obviously, Florida State looked a little better against Cal.
I mean, low scoring game.
Yeah, but there's other teams that we thought were going to be, you know, a little bit better. I mean,
Boston College is one that, you know, kind of sticks out to me. That, you know, was kind of an issue last year and seems to be, you know, a bigger issue this year. And we don't have too far to go before we're playing them.
Right. Well, I mean, we'll figure that out. Virginia Tech was another one we thought was going to be a little bit more of a difficult, one of our more difficult conference games, and they're struggling early this year. They just got beat by Rutgers. So
well, they did have a starting quarterback issue early, right?
Yep.
I think he played against Rutgers. Am I right, Jones?
Yeah, pretty sure.
But yeah, they kind of started from behind, so he did. I watched some of that game.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and no one wants to see Rutgers win. At least I don't. But with that said, found myself rooting for JMU. So that's a Virginia school, so I throw down on that. I thought that was awesome.
5th president of the United States, right?
Yes. I thought it was pretty awesome that they did it at UNC in Chapel Hill, and there was after halftime, there was 10 people left in the stands in that game.
It's brutal.
It was.
We thought our game was brutal.
I know. I mean, I guess at least we had a chance. I had a shot at it for a minute.
Look, James Madison's been good. Maybe that NIL is doing good for them because I think they only had one loss last year too. So, and I watched some of that game. That quarterback they have is a pretty good player.
James Madison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get this started. We'll get your picks. You'll hear our picks. We'll tell you what you think. What we think. We'll tell you what you think. No, we'll tell you what we think though. Right now. The all-time series between Syracuse and Holy Cross heavily favors the Orange, leads the series 24-5, and hard to believe they got 5, but they got 5. It's been a while. Syracuse is currently on a 13-game win streak against the Crusaders. The series began in 1905 with a 16-4 Syracuse victory, and the teams last met in 2019 when Syracuse dominated Holy Cross 41-3. The largest margin of victory for Syracuse came in 1963 in a 48-0 blowout. Holy Cross's last win in the series came in 1958 when they narrowly defeated Syracuse 14-13. Holy Cross enters this week's game against Syracuse with 1-3 record. Their season opened with a narrow 2017 loss to Rhode Island. Followed by that was a pretty heavy victory, 43-22 over Bryant. However, since then they've dropped 2 straight games, including a tough loss, 38-31 to Yale last week. In that matchup, quarterback for Holy Cross, Drew Pazanski, threw for 279 yards, while sophomore running back Jaden Clairvaux scored 3 rushing touchdowns. The defense, led by senior linebacker Frankie Monty, has 17 tackles so far this season. He's struggled against high-powered offenses, making this a bad matchup for him. They come in this year, the Crusaders do, with a fresh look for the 2024 season under new head coach Dan Curran. Following the departure of former head coach Bob Chesney, who we were just talking about, James Madison, well, he's the one that coached the team that waxed UNC's ass. So, offensively, the Crusaders have lost key players, All-American quarterback Matthew Sluka, who we'll see later this year, right, Joe? Yep. And top receiver Jalen Coker. However, senior running back Jordan Fuller, he was poised this year to, be the guy he was last year. He rushed for 1,046 yards last year and 19 touchdowns. I mean, he's the cornerstone of this offense and has been. They were hoping that was going to be the case, but unfortunately he has suffered a season-ending injury, and so the aforementioned Jaden Clairvaux is going to go ahead and be stepping in for him when they enter the Dome and for the foreseeable future. So I mentioned Joe Pazanski. He's had flashes, and last year he stepped in for a couple games. He had a 337-yard, 3-touchdown performance against Fordham last year. Defensively, I mentioned Frankie Monty. He had 66 tackles last season. Safety Chris Harris-Lopez, adding a little bit of stability to this younger defense that they have. Despite the losses, though, this year, I mean, there's writings and, I mean, there's positivity surrounding this team, and after a year last year that they had wasn't terrible, and switching coaches and losing some players is a huge blow. But the fans seem to be, I don't know, wind is somewhat at the back, I guess. But they face a lot of Power 5 teams, obviously. So I don't think that Syracuse should struggle too much with them. I think. See how the defense handles this run game, get pressure on the quarterback, and that's going to be a wrap. I mean, this Jordan Fuller is kind of a big deal, really, and he's not going to be playing. Just kind of a stud, honestly. He's still leading the team in rushing. He set records for Holy Cross already last year, I think in yards and touchdowns, and so that is their biggest star. He is not going to be playing, so that changes the whole dynamic of this game. And Pazanski with a senior guy, but nonetheless a lot of weight on his shoulders, and it could get ugly. I don't know. Everything I've predicted to get ugly hasn't. So anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly what you said. That pretty much hits the trifecta for Holy Cross, right? To where they last year had the best season in quite some time, to the point where their head coach went to where? JMU?
JMU, yeah. And their quarterback went to UNLV.
And the quarterback went to UNLV. Their
Sluka.
Lost. Yep. They lost their top receiver, and now they lost the top running back from last year too. So everybody's new, coach is new, and this isn't like a North Dakota State D1AA school, right? So the worst thing that could have happened to them was us lose last week, to be perfectly honest with you. We already went kind of over what we went over on Saturday, so we can't really. I don't know. We can, but we're not going to talk too much about that. But just a couple things that came up in Fran Brown's presser, and you kind of hit everything from Holy Cross, so I don't really have too much to add with them other than just what was mentioned in the press conference for Fran Brown. And essentially,
did you just glitch, bro? Did you glitch?
No, maybe in my head, but not through the phone.
It looked like a glitch.
So.
Fran Brown's press conference. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. You got me just okay. So he didn't add or mention any more new injuries. The way that he spoke, was briefly mentioned about Zeke Haynes. He's said again that he's taking care of a personal reason. Doesn't really sound like he's going to be back, but he said when he's back, you'll know it. He'll be out there.
If the guy says stop asking about it, then he's not going to give you an answer. It's obviously personal, so stop asking about it. It doesn't make it. It doesn't.
He didn't pry. And it didn't seem like Fran got to. He was more or less like, let's just give him what it is. It's not fair to him, and I think that's going to be the last time. Nobody else brought it up, so
I hope not. They brought it up at the post-game presser. That should have been it. He already said don't ask.
I know.
Okay.
They spoke. He didn't say anything about Manuel Ross. He said that Tank Wilson should be back. Marcellus Barnes is still day to day, and they asked about Marlowe X, and they were saying, he's halfway through, the time period that you gave him. Is he still on track? And he said, what do you think? He said, yeah. He's like, what do you think? I'm gonna say no, like. So we're still, obviously, I don't know. That's going to be a more realistic conversation than our next bye week after the NC State game. So it's good to hear that we didn't have a lot of extra injuries. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is going to be a game where we come out angry. And I just don't really. The thing is going to be pretty ugly, to be perfectly honest with you. He sounded like he wasn't down. I listened to a little bit of Kyle McCord today on local radio, and he spoke of how pretty much it's a consensus that, they've talked about it, and it's kind of probably better to drop one early and learn from your mistakes and maybe get a little grounded and not be so, confident and realize, everyone's going to compete with you, and every week you got to work. And he said, he compared it to last year. He's like, losing against Stanford and still having the whole season ahead of you, still only having one loss, having a chance to still compete for the ACC and everything. He says it's a better loss than him losing to Michigan last game of the season last year and knowing that he wasn't going to have a chance to win the Big Ten, right? So he compared it to that, and I just think that they need to kind of go back to the drawing board. There's a couple things that they need to figure out. They need to figure out their ground game. Obviously, they have to go in there and wanting to control both sides of the line of scrimmage to get back and get that confidence and get that cohesiveness for those units. And who knows, maybe they try out a couple other different guys, and maybe there's some positions up for grabs this week. I mean, we don't know. But all I know is that little brother who's already got 3 losses in D1 AA has got big brother who is pretty upset and pissed off at the fact that they lost last week. So,
yeah, and I mean, what do we learn from this game? Like so, as fans, you tend to overreact or underreact, you know. So the happy medium with this game for me would be go in, win this game, be able to sit starters, and then get out healthy and go play UNLV, and hopefully that momentum, what is there of it, and not only that, but some of the maybe the chip on the shoulder is still there to go into UNLV and be able to do something there at 9:00 at night on a Friday. Yep. Right? It is a Friday game, right?
Yep.
So I don't know. Quite honestly, this isn't, using your point, I wouldn't want to play Holy Cross this week after that. I'd rather play somebody with some relevance, but it's the hand.
But there's things we need to learn, and that's the thing, is I think it's perfect to go out there and kind of practice some things and get a little better in some areas. Obviously, we know that and we understand that, and those are the things that we need to learn on. Also, too, I mean, if anything, that Stanford game told us that, like what a lot of people said in the beginning of the season, like pump the brakes a little bit because this is a brand new coaching staff with half a team at turnover, right? You might have the Jimmies and Joes and you might have the coaches to eventually get to the X's and O's, but it takes a little while sometimes to get that cohesiveness and get it together. And like I said before, I think we're a much more talented team than Stanford, and I'm upset they lost. I'm sure they're upset they lost. It's a little bit of a setback because it was an expected win, but especially if you want to get on to the national stage with some type of ranking before these UNLV or NC State games. But these sometimes these games just need to be had sometimes for a turnaround in somebody's season. And this is the coaching staff and a team that's still learning how to play together and coach. I mean, Fran Brown's never been a head coach, so it's
right.
He's holding himself accountable for some of the positions he's been putting his players in, and regardless of what Kyle McCord said, he thought that their team played awful in the first half, and the fact that they had the resilience to come back and still put themselves in a situation to take the lead and win the game, and then Fran turned around and ultimately put himself in the accountability chair and saying, I shouldn't have put Clarence Lewis in that position, and there's other things that I should have done, and they're going to learn from that. I mean, what do you go from there? I mean, they kept drilling him about it, and he goes, look, there's nothing that we can do to change the outcome of last week, but there are a lot of things that we can do today on Monday to start the transition to move forward of changing outcomes in the future and learning and, what went wrong and getting better.
You always want a little bit of a reflective recap on a previous game, especially if it's a loss, right? But sometimes people just like to beat the dead horse, man. Like, okay.
I mean, the game's over, right?
The game's over. We know what we know. We all saw.
They realized where we messed up, right?
Right. We all saw the game. I mean, you're not asking questions to give listeners or fans more knowledge about anything because, first of all, they watched the game. I mean, I think everybody came up with the same conclusion on the game. Couldn't run the ball.
Yeah. The funny thing is Fran, a couple different times they asked the question, and I liked how he answered. He asked the question back to be able to gain context of what are you really talking about, right? But then we get some of these other questions where it's like, do you plan on going in and establishing the run and establishing the front line?
No, we don't want to do that at all.
No, after we just, we
gave
suck
up
at
all
those
we
sacks and we only gave up. We only had how many ever? You take away sack yards, what we have 46, 50 yards of rushing. No, we're not going to do that. Like, why are we asking those questions? Like, of course they're going to go in and they're going to practice the run game and things like that. They're going to practice McCord checking down sometimes instead of going for the gusto every time. I think that's really realistically what happened with the other interception where they did a little the wheel route that he threw short. Sometimes you just got to do the check down and get a couple yards. So obviously we saw, right? I just don't understand why we turn around and then just ask the same questions that we just asked from the post game, right?
Because you don't have anything for Holy Cross, maybe, because it's Holy Cross. And what do you got? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but sometimes they're just those redundant answers, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have anything creative, there once in a while someone comes up with something creative.
Oh, absolutely. But you just rushed for 26 yards. It's the post game right after they lost, and hey, what happened with the front line? Is there anything that went wrong with the da-da-da-da-da? Like, of course we know something went wrong. And then we turn around 2 days later for the preview. So do you plan on working on the front line and maintaining the rushing as you're starting to get the rushing? Like, of course. Like we just talked about it today. It's just, I mean, it is what it is. Maybe nobody has questions and they're just throwing stuff out there. Maybe it's the same person and they're trying to get a different answer from him, but all he gave was his Monday answer.
Well, aren't there multiple football reporters from the same outlets? At least a couple of them, I know, are overlaps. Not that, I mean, I don't give a crap. But, you're
not going to get anything from him. I mean, that's the one thing that I've learned is that he gives a pretty good post-game presser and he gives you some nuggets. But as far as pregame goes, he's doing that on Monday. And his thing, I'm just worried about Monday. I can't tell you anything about the game on Saturday. I can't. So he's only giving the answers based upon that. So there's probably going to be some different injuries that pop up, or there are probably going to be maybe a couple guys that have owies and they sit out because this really is a game that I think you can sit some players out and get healthy. But we're not going to know that on a Monday afternoon. So,
yeah. Anyway.
I mean, that's just where we're at with that. I mean, he's going to answer to the best of his ability on a Monday and say, all we're worried about is Monday and practicing on Monday and getting better today on Monday. We know what his answers are going to be. So,
right. Okay, well, let's get into some Twitter stuff. Joe, I did post on Facebook too. Let's get some of your predictions. I saw one in here just perusing that was exactly what I have written down right now, and I'll get to that one last. Let's see. Okay, well, let's start with Cuse Mode Jimbo. Okay, now, Jimbo, he's usually on top of this. He gives me meat, but he doesn't give me a score. This matchup needs to get to a comfortable enough lead after 30 minutes for Syracuse to feel confident enough to rest their starters in the second half. Absolutely. Okay, I mean, it should. It's an FCS school. I mean, we should be able to handle this. They're like baby giraffes. They're just getting their legs underneath them and can't even walk straight yet. So, they're a younger team, especially defensively. I think the matchup for them defensively is going to be brutal. So, could be a field day for our defense too, but I think more so for that offense, their defense is going to struggle against our offense, but we'll see. I've been wrong before. Happened once last week. At Baptized by Fire 7, 44-0 Syracuse. Because it's Holy Cross and there is no telling if this team can have you 10-minute quarters running with a running clock in the second half. Okay. Well, I don't know. That happened recently, though, didn't it? I can't remember who it was, but second half was a running clock. You remember that? Our buddy Nadal, Syracuse, was happening last year. Syracuse has a good team around a good coach who can honestly reflect and work. How often do we watch a TV show and see the main character fail to see the obvious plot twist or development? The staff are washing blood, sweat, and tears off the floors in training week. Cuse 31-10. Cuse. So.
Ooh.
It's a little too close for me.
Yeah.
Our buddy David. 63-6. Starters play 3 quarters to stay sharp, show us a dominating defensive effort, regain confidence, and take the intensity and focus heading out in West next week. Then, with the early Saturday kickoff, Sean uses the rest of the weekend to start decorating for Christmas. Well, that's not a bad idea. But
it's an awful idea.
But it's not a bad idea. But it once I at least wait for the trick-or-treating to end. I don't decorate for Halloween because I don't think it's a holiday. But I wait for it to end. And then the Christmas stuff comes down. And it's boxes upon boxes. And it grows every year. It's a Leviathan up there. It takes up my whole attic. Anyway. Captain Pat. He gives us no meat here, but he says 52-10. Facebook sucks. Joe is nasty. AF. And he's got the Dumb and Dumber gif where he's trying to catch the ketchup out. Was he squeezing the tube?
Oh, he's
squeezing the ketchup bottle.
Oh, Lord.
Anyway, leave it up to Pat. What do you got? You got anything else? I don't have a ton more meat. I got one more, really.
I mean,
so,
Tyler Holton, 43-13. Syracuse allows some big plays, but holds them to many 3-and-outs. Wins the turnover battle big time. Johnny Carlin. 48. Carlin. 48-13, perfect rebound game after the disappointing performance / loss last week. Hopefully get the offense back in sync and defense continue to build on run defense and pass rush. Need to use this game to springboard into the next games before the second bye. Agree with that. Because I think at UNLV, and even though NC State's gotten smoked, it's Tennessee and Clemson. For all we know, they could be top 10, top 15 teams in the country, right? I don't think you can judge Clemson because of a loss against Georgia. But
no, Georgia's, aren't they still ranked number 1 in the nation?
Actually, Texas overtook them.
Oh, did they?
Because they had Georgia had a close win against Kentucky, where some people think they should have lost. So, let's see, top fan Keith Williams, 56-0 Cuse. The backups get some playing time after the starters come out and prove a point early.
A lot of people predicting the starters sitting in the second half, which is, should happen.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. Let's see. There's not a lot of meat there. Some person named Mark Soter said Holy Cross 72, Syracuse 2. So obviously someone called him out saying that he was delusional. So we still got one of those fans.
It's not delusional. He just trolled you. When you see that, all you got to do is ignore it.
Yeah.
Because if you act like it's not there, then it's not there.
Fair. Also, I want to just shout out to Ryan Roach. I'm not going to read your comment because you didn't leave a score, but he did give a little bit of meat. So,
well, let's hear it.
All right.
Come on. He doesn't know the rule. We got Jimbo, who's played by the rules, since I can remember, but he bones us on a score this time. So I read his. It's only fair. I hear you there.
All right. Okay. All right, Ryan. I'm hoping the last game was the shock to the system they needed, but I have serious concerns about the offensive line amongst a myriad of other things. And I said, all right, Ryan, for this Ryan Roach, not because I was calling you your brother. And let's see.
Oh, you said that to me? Yeah, no, yeah, you said it to him. I figured you did, yeah.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to avoid some confusion there. And the last one I got is our boy Andy Stewart, top fan.
Oh, sorry. I'm asleep at the wheel.
She always has a pretty good comment. So this game comes at a great time. Sit some players out to get healthy. Try some new things on defense or the pass rush. I'll take 3-1 after week 4 with a new coaching staff and basically a new roster. Win 8 to 9 games, and recruiting will absolutely go through the roof for Fran. He's got 38-10 Syracuse.
38-10?
Mm-hmm. Hey, look, he's a realistic fan. Doesn't go too overboard, gives good comments.
Yeah, I know. It makes me second guess my pick again.
Dude, these are all over the place. If you looked at...
I know. Yeah. Let's see what else I got up here. Level Up Luke, 69-0. We got Mike N, 45-6, Syracuse. Let's see. At Linny PD, 44-10. A lot of people using the 44 just because. And Syracuse 45-17. And then I guess we'll just get into picks because this next one is I already told you, diary of the mouth. This was the score I picked. So
I won.
You won. So I was just thinking about it. I just saw I did circle your name on here. Actually, Dylan won, but he's not part of the show. So
Fair. Good job, Dylan.
I mean, he was way wrong too, but he did have. It was closer.
Yeah, closer. I mean, hey, look, if they don't get that pick six, we're really close to at least Stanford score.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, again, these guys are going to come out upset. They're going to be a little pissed off. I don't know if they're going to run the score up on them, and obviously it all really depends because we have seen Carlos Del Rio Wilson come in. I still haven't seen Michael Johnson Jr. and what he can do. So, Lord, this could be brutal. I'm going to go. Syracuse.
It's not easy going first all the time. What do you got?
52-3.
Wow, that's really close to mine.
And I haven't gone on Twitter and read any comments, so I don't even know what you're speaking of. So that was just off the cuff.
Well, I didn't read them before we got on here, but I was going to change it too because I thought it was a little too high. But anyway.
Are you a little too high?
Yeah, no.
No.
No. I think that obviously this is going to not be much of a contest, and Joe doesn't have him getting in the end zone, and that's fair. I have a question mark next to my score still because it's one I just kind of you don't want to get too high on your horse, right?
Right.
So that was why I guess I was second guessing myself. So, anyways, with that said. I'm going to go 56-10. I think that, like I said before, Syracuse's offense is going to be much too overwhelming for this younger defense. And, honestly, Holy Cross's offense without Fuller is a whole nother problem. But I feel like the matchup with our offense and this defense, I feel like these guys can have, if LeQuint wants a bounce back game, this is going to be it. To go out there and bruise. So anyway,
right.
56-10. You got 52-3. It's like two good picks. I don't know when anybody sits. I don't care. Maybe a garbage time touchdown at the end there for Holy Cross. So we shall see. Not a lot. Golly, I almost fell over. Not a lot. I tend to not sit when I do this. So, anyways, I sit at work too much.
One day I'll get.
I
don't sit at work ever.
I got this husky desk thing that it's like a tool thing, but it's a table, and you can raise it and lower it. So,
okay.
Anyway, no one cares. I know no one cares. No. So, was this the game that's a sellout too? By the way, is that what I saw?
Yeah, I want to say it's Parents' Weekend, which is why they think that it's going to be a sellout.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, well, fair. That's fair. Well, good. I mean, either way.
Yeah, it's just it'll be packed in the beginning, and by halftime, most of them will go home.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of that. That's kind of one of those things. I mean,
That's how games go.
Yeah. But with that said, look, we'll be back here on Sunday per the norm. Okay. Kind of really, for me, really want to get this game out of the way. Because there's so much, I feel like on the line early against UNLV and then going to NC State and then Pittsburgh, like that stretch before having Virginia Tech at home. I mean, is going to show us what this team really is. It's tough you do in Ohio. You have a good game against Georgia Tech. where some points were scored late don't really reflect the game. You know what I mean? Kind of fair, right?
Yeah.
And then you have a loss against Stanford, and we're gonna head into an FCS showdown, and then those next 4 games though after that's when this is gonna get fun for us to come here, and especially post game stuff. Well, let's hope so. Golly, we all remember last year that started fun too.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm not nervous because up until maybe the past time, I think the last time was when we played Villanova. Every year we play a D1AA school. The last time there was a scare, which we probably should have lost, was a game at home against Villanova where they were ranked like first or second in FCS. So there's no need to worry here. And if all y'all are interested, after our game at noon over on Fox Sports 1, UNLV will be playing Fresno State, so you can get a good look.
That's actually a decent matchup, correct? I mean, I don't know much about Fresno State, but they're somewhat relevant.
Yeah, Fresno State currently is 3-1, and UNLV is currently coming off a bye and 3-0. And Fresno State's only loss is 30-10 against Michigan, at Michigan. So
it's pretty good.
But the teams they've also played for their W's aren't great either, with Sacramento State, New Mexico State, and New Mexico. So, but yeah. No,
yeah, but ass whoopings, though. I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of.
That's something that you can watch. Right now it's a 4. I think UNLV's a 4-point favorite at Fresno State, I believe. So, yep.
FS1.
You want to go and get your little
UNLV fix, your Matthew Sluka fix. Go check out the Sluke.
Go check them out because we're going to be playing them Friday night. So
at 9:00 when, I'll be, that's going to be tough. I'll come up with a game plan. That's going to be tough. I found out this past weekend against Stanford that the whole idea of smoking cigars and drinking whiskey is probably not going to work. Okay. So
I could have told you that, buddy.
I really thought that would be something that would keep me up, but you know what? It didn't work. And it never helps when it's a loss, but nonetheless, the nap's looking better. Not sure I can pull that off on a Friday. That's a tough one because
that's a tough one. You might want to think about just an optional drink.
Water.
And what I mean is not an Voodoo Ranger 9.5 IPA either. I mean, you might have to go back to some light stuff.
I'll drink a Kona Big Wave at a solid 4.3.
I was drinking Michelob Ultras and I struggled to stay up for that game because of how high stressed it was.
Yeah, well, when they go down like water and you're that stressed out, that's when the pounding starts.
Yeah, well, the fact that I also had a long-ass day at work, too. So. I know.
Well, that's the other thing. Fridays for me, like, usually I try to set myself up for Fridays to be, like, home runs, but that's, so many different things affect that. It's like you go, because I go this would be the Friday that I meet a couple buddies up at the corner bar, and that's 5 to 7. I get home from that. I still got 2 hours to wait before the game starts. So I have to have a plan B here. I don't know how it's going to go.
Way earlier. Well, I don't know about you, but I know that I definitely sleep in a couple extra hours that I need to wake up comparable to Friday and Saturday.
I'm out of the door on a Friday morning. Well, every Monday through Friday, I'm out the door at around, just after 5.
Yeah.
So, okay, look, no one cares. I know no one cares. I'm telling you anyway.
No, this is why we get to talk about it at the end, right?
It's our show. That's right. Also, since it's our show, we'll be back here Sunday with the post-game breakdown of Holy Cross. Appreciate all of you for listening. If you like it, subscribe, share it. We appreciate you all so much. Thank you. For Joe, I'm Sean. We're out.
Peace.